Hello, One Great Earth. My name is Dan. Thank you for joining me here on the stream. We have a few stories to get into. First, what the reported birth of a rare white buffalo calf in Yellowstone means to the Lakota. Helena, Montana. The reported birth of a rare white buffalo in Yellowstone National Park fulfills the Lakota prophecy that portends better times, according to members of the American Indian tribe, who caution that it's also a signal that more must be done to protect the earth and its animals. The birth of this calf is both a blessing and a warning. We must do more, said Chief Irbil Looking Horse, the spiritual leader of Dakota and the Nakota Oyati in South Dakota, and the 19th keeper of the sacred white buffalo calf woman pipe and bundle. The birth of the sacred calf comes as after a severe winter in 2023 drove thousands of Yellowstone buffalo, also known as bison, to lower elevations. More than 1,500 were killed, sent to slaughter, or transferred to tribes seeking to reclaim stewardship over an animal that ancestors lived alongside for millennia. Aaron Broughton of Kalispell took several photos of the calf shortly after it was born on June 4th in the Lamar Valley in the northeastern corner of the park. Her family was visiting the park when she spotted something really white among a herd of bison across the Lamar River. Traffic ended up stopping while bison crossed the road, so Broughton stuck her camera out the window to take a closer look at her with her telephoto lens. I look and it's this white buffalo calf, and I was just totally floored, she said. After the bison cleared the roadway, the Broughtons turned their vehicle around and found a spot to park. They watched the calf and its mother for 30 to 45 minutes, and then she kind of led it through the willows there, and they didn't see it again. For the Lakota, the birth of the white buffalo calf with a black nose, eyes, and hooves is akin to the second coming of Jesus Christ, Looking Horse said. Lakota legend says about 2,000 years ago, when nothing was good, food was running out, and bison were disappearing, white buffalo calf woman appeared, presented a bull pipe and a bundle to a tribal member, taught them how to pray, and said that the pipe could be used to bring buffalo to the area for food. As she left, she turned into a white buffalo calf. Does that mean they hunted her? And someday, when the times are hard again, Looking Horse said in relating the legend, I shall return and stand upon the earth as a white buffalo calf, black nose, black eyes, and black hooves. A similar white buffalo calf was born in Wisconsin in 1994 and was named Miracle, he said. Troy Heinert, the executive director of the South Dakota-based Intertribal Buffalo Council, said the calf in Broughton's photo looks like a true white buffalo because it has a black nose, black hooves, and dark eyes. From the pictures I've seen, that calf seems to have these traits. An albino buffalo would have pink eyes. A naming ceremony has been held for the Yellowstone calf, Looking Horse said, though he declined to reveal the name. A ceremony celebrating the calf's birth is set for June 26 at the Buffalo Field Campaign headquarters in West Yellowstone. Other tribes also revere white buffalo. Many tribes have their own story of why the white buffalo is so important. All stories go back to them being very sacred. Einart and several members of the Buffalo Field Campaign said they've never heard of a white buffalo being born in Yellowstone, which has wild herds. Park officials had not seen the buffalo yet and could not confirm its birth in the park, and they have no record of a white buffalo being born in the park previously. Jim Matheson, executive director of the National Bison Association, could not quantify how rare the calf is. To my knowledge, no one's ever tracked the occurrence of white buffalo being born throughout history, so I'm not sure how we can make a determination how often it occurs. Besides herds of the animals on public lands or overseen by conservation groups, about 80 tribes across the U.S. have more than 20,000 bison, a figure that's been growing in recent years. In Yellowstone and the surrounding area, the killing or removing a large number of bison happens almost every winter under agreement between federal and Montana agencies that has limited the size of the park's herds to about 5,000 animals. Yellowstone officials last week proposed a slightly larger population of up to 6,000 bison. with a final decision expected last month. But ranchers in Montana have long opposed increasing the Yellowstone herds or transferring the animals to tribes. Republican Governor Greg Gianforte has said that he would not support any management plan with a population target greater than 3,000 Yellowstone buffalo. The calf hineyard sees the calf's birth as a reminder that we need to live in a good way and treat others with respect. I hope that calf is safe and going to live its best life in Yellowstone National Park, exactly where it was designed to be. Very interesting, especially with the culling of the herds. 5,000, they want to increase it to 6,000, but the governor says 3,000 in response. So half? Why are all Republicans insane? If you're saying, wait a minute, you're probably a Republican and you're insane and don't know it. That's the problem here. Why is it always the Republicans that want to kill everything, destroy everything, poison everything? Why? You can't tell me, because if you were a Republican, you wouldn't know either. Republicanism is a disease. An honest to goodness disease. It preys on the self-consciousness and disturbs it. Makes it think very disturbing truths, I guess you could say. But bison, just in Yellowstone, 5,000. Very powerful animals. It's just a shame that there's no pictures of this white buffalo, right? All this talk about this white buffalo, and there's not a picture of the white buffalo. The person didn't apparently save it or share it. They just took pictures of it out of the car and that's it. Man. Oh well. LaNina. This is from NPR. LaNina is likely to arrive this summer. Here's what that means for hurricane season, by Rachel Treisman. El Nino is so last season. Federal forecasters say the climate pattern, which brought warmer than normal ocean temperatures to the eastern Pacific and helped drive global temperatures to new heights since June 23, 2023, is officially over. The National Weather Service Climate Prediction Center declared Thursday that neutral conditions returned during the past month as expected, but they're not likely to last long. El Nino's cooler counterpart, La Nina, is forecast to develop this summer and persist through winter in the northern hemisphere. The tropical Pacific's climate pendulum appears to be swinging back towards this other extreme, reads a Thursday post on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric. Oh, my mouth hurts. I don't know if you listen to the other streams, but I had dental surgery done, and it sure does smart. It really does. The tooth could not be saved. I cracked it at the gum line, and it was just, it needed to come out very badly. And took over an hour for the one tooth to be extracted, which I know they were surprised. They were very apologetic about it taking so long, but I'm like, it needed to come out. That doctor needed to hate that tooth to be able to get it out. You understand what I mean? He had to hate it. For that period of time where he was gripping it and trying to hold my head and like just rip it out, he had to hate it. Not me. He had to hate that tooth. Be able to pull it out like that? Oh my god. It looked like a shark tooth when it came out as well. I asked to see it, but I was going to take it home, but I forgot it, or he forgot. I don't know. I know I asked for it, but my head was just gone. I was covered in sweat, very sweaty, and yeah, got it out, which it needed to be removed. Like breaking at the gum line, I was afraid that they're gonna have to cut the gum or go through like something. They didn't have to do anything of the sort, so that was good. At least that they didn't have to cut up my gums to get my tooth out. I have 6 wisdom teeth. So I had one tooth that fell out like years ago, and many years ago, probably 10, 11 years ago. And whenever I got X-rays, they showed 6 wisdom teeth. Now since then, I've had like 4 or 5 wisdom teeth now. So they think that one of my wisdom teeth came out as a molar, which is pretty cool. Because I don't have to, like, they're growing in sideways like this. But the ones that were coming up like that, and one here coming down like that. I didn't know that you could have so many wisdom teeth, but it caused a lot of compaction of my mouth, my teeth. So don't know if this is related, but all I know is that I was experiencing tremendous pain, discomfort, and sickness as a result of the tooth pain. Now that it's all gone, I feel different. I feel like something's missing, but it needed to go. Like it was infected. It was becoming a bad tooth. And ever since I broke it at the gum line, there was no saving it. There's no contraption that they can develop. And there was no surface area for them to be able to put any kind of construction. So it had to be pulled. I tell you though, it's definitely ask if you feel the pain and not the pressure, and only the pressure. Like you feel pain, ask for another shot. Because every time I felt something, he would give me another shot, until it was completely numb to the point that I couldn't feel anything, which was great. I had it done at a university of dentistry in Michigan, and I was surprised to get it on the books so quickly. They came in on a weekend, or was it a Monday, and I had me scheduled for a Wednesday. I'll tell you though, that was a rough tooth to pull. I know they were like different after it too, for the same reasons. Like we shared something there. In my mind, I was zonked. I don't know how else to put it. Like I can't explain to you just how sweaty I was. I wasn't moving, I wasn't getting up, I wasn't making him stop. Like for that whole hour, he was working on that tooth trying to pull it out. He didn't break it apart. He didn't break apart inside the forceps or whatever, in the clamps. He had to drill holes on different parts of it so he can use the tool to be able to grab it better. And it just took a long time. And when it finally did come out, it was a lot. Bled a lot, and it was a lot of blood. But I feel better. I wasn't taking care of myself for a period of time last year. I was very, very sick. Very sick. And I wasn't doing it. I wasn't brushing. I wasn't doing anything. I was tremendously ill. But much better now, but these things happen, and as a result of being sick, not taking care of yourself, it can lead to a lot of very, very painful consequences. And for me, it was a tooth that was infected. It got really infected, really inflamed, and it was causing me a lot of discomfort outside of my face too. It wasn't just my tooth. It was causing me pain around my nostril, around my cheek area right here, and it would constantly feel like I had to pick at it. But I wasn't picking at it like I was thinking, like, do I have an ingrown hair or something? No, it was actually the root of that tooth that was causing so much inflammation and problems. So many migraines probably as a result of this thing in the last 2 months. It needed to come out 2 months ago. Officially, it needed to come out 2 months ago. But now that it's out, Um, I had to cut some of the stitching away because after I gargled with some salty water, some warm salty water, felt like the stitching came out, and it was just like, but it's so much stitching that they did, so it's not like anything that came out that needs to stay. The stitches only last for a couple of weeks anyway, and they're going to dissolve by themselves. It's it hurts. Forecasters originally predicted that LaNina could begin as soon as June, but shifted their timeline as the rate of cooling has slowed in recent weeks. That means she could reasonably make her grand entrance right as peak Atlantic hurricane season rages, potentially exacerbated. La Nina conditions are especially conducive to Atlantic hurricanes. NOAA had already predicted an 85% chance of an above-normal hurricane season, which lasts from June through November. Last month, its forecast between 17 and 25 named storms, the largest number of storms ever predicted by the agency by this point in the season. Forecasters pointed to a number of factors, including near-warm ocean temperatures in the Atlantic and development of La Nina conditions in the Pacific. La Nina historically enhances Atlantic hurricane activity by tamping down the vertical wind shear in the tropics. Strong wind shear, which happens when the wind conditions change rapidly, breaks apart developing storms. Think of it as this way. La Nina usually means stronger hurricane activity in the Atlantic basin and suppressed hurricane activity in the central and eastern Pacific basin. El Nino achieves the opposite. The hurricane impacts of El Nino and its counterpart La Nina are like a seesaw between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans, strengthening hurricane activity in one region while weakening it in the other. Interestingly, the NWS notes that some of the most destructive hurricanes that hit the U.S. in recent decades, like Katrina in 2005 and Andrew in 1992, occurred not only during La Nina, but in the neutral phase of the cycle. You can see here a variable jet stream that comes up here to the Pacific Northwest. It comes down here to the south, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then comes out to the northeast, bringing warmer air to like Baltimore, New York, New Hampshire. Bring a lot and it's going to make the southwest drier, much drier. During La Nina, the Pacific jet stream often meanders high into the North Pacific, as seen in this visual from NOAA. After hurricane season wraps, La Nina is likely to play a role in winter weather across the U.S., bringing warmer than average temperatures to the south and cooler than average temperatures to the north. As NOAA explains, its arrival in the Pacific Ocean triggers changes in tropical rainfall and wind patterns that have ripple effect in the rest of the world. In the U.S., that usually involves a shift in the path of mid-latitude jet stream, which affects temperature and precipitation. During La Nina, the Pacific jet streams often meanders high into the North Pacific and is less reliable across the southern tier of the United States, the agency says. As a result, southern and interior Alaska and Pacific Northwest can be cooler and wetter than normal. In the southern part of the country, from California to Carolinas, tends to be extra warm and dry. The Ohio and upper Mississippi River valleys may also be wetter than usual. La Nina also makes the waters of the Pacific colder and more nutrient denser than usual, which attracts more cold water species. Think squid and salmon to the California coast and other locations, the National Ocean Service says. La Nina conditions have also been linked to a higher frequency of spring tornadoes in the central U.S. The NWS says both La Nina and El Nino tend to be the strongest from December to April, because the equatorial Pacific sea temperatures are normally warmest at this time of the year. More detailed predictions about La Nina are likely on the horizon, as NOAA plans to release its next forecast in mid-July. Global temperatures are still rising, even in a cooler climate pattern. It's important to remember that climate patterns like La Nina and El Nino, which fluctuate naturally, are happening in the broader context of human-induced climate change. which makes weather more extreme all over the world. The World Meteorology Organization pointed out later this month that the past 9 years have been the warmest on record, even with the cooling influence of multi-year LaNina from 2020 to early 2023. In fact, 2023 was the hottest year ever recorded. WMO Deputy Secretary General Cole Barrett said in a statement that weather will continue to be extreme because of the extra heat and moisture in the atmosphere. The end of El Niño does not mean a pause in long-term climate change, as our planet will continue to warm during heat-trapping greenhouse gases. Exceptionally high sea temperatures, surface temperatures will continue to play an important role during the next months. Scientists predict that 2024 will be one of the 5 hottest years ever recorded, bringing another scorching summer and the potential for even more climate-driven disasters. The name and the phenomenon explained. Scientists stress that La Nina is not a storm that hits a specific area at a given time. Instead, it's a change in global atmospheric circulation that affects weather around the world. Think of how a big construction project across a town can change the flow of traffic near your house, with people being rerouted, side roads being taken more traffic, and normal exits on ramps closed. States in NOAA webpage. Different neighborhoods will be affected most at different times of the day. You would feel the effects of the construction project through its changes to normal patterns, but you wouldn't expect a construction project to hit your house. It's one part of the El Niño Southern Oscillation Cycle, ENSO, a natural climate pattern defined by opposing warm and cool phases of oceanic and atmospheric conditions in the Pacific. In the ENSO cycle, La Nina and El Niño alternatively cool and warm large areas of the tropical ocean about every 2 to 7 years on average. Forecasters can officially declare a La Nina event when sea surface temperatures clock in below a certain level, are modeled to remain under that threshold and prompt a noticeable atmospheric response like changes in wind. As for names, South American fishermen had long observed warmer than normal coastal Pacific Ocean waters and dramatic decreases in fish catch around Christmas time. They nicknamed that phenomenon El Niño, Spanish for little boy, after baby Jesus. So when scientists discovered the opposite phase of El Niño in the 1980s, they called it little girl, or La Nina. It's going to be the hottest year on record. This is not a prediction. It's already been the hottest 12 months on record. So it should be much easier to accept that the next 6 months on record are going to be the hottest months on record. We are one national city away from experiencing heat wave related blackouts to having mass casualty events. We're having Arizona looking like it's going to go over 120 degrees. This is uncanny with the amount of temperatures that we're seeing over 90 degrees that are sweeping across the United States alone. Huge oil refinery fire in Iraq. Huge fire at Iraq oil refinery injures 14. A massive fire at oil refinery in Iraqi Kurdistan raged for, I believe this is in Irbil, raged for about 20 hours and injured at least 14 firefighters, who on Thursday finally brought the blaze under control. The fire broke out in a major crude oil tank on Wednesday night before spreading a second refinery on a road southwest of Irbil, capital of the autonomous northern region of Kurdistan, the Civil Defense Agency said. Thick plumes of black smoke and balls of orange flame rose into the sky above the facility, an AFP photographer reported. The Civil Defense Agency said the fire, the cause of which remains unclear, started in one refinery before spreading to another. A spokesperson for the agency, Shakwan Saeed, told a new conference on Thursday evening the fire has been 100% contained and there is no longer any danger for the surrounding refineries. He said 150 rescuers had been mobilized and 14 had been injured, with 2 in critical condition. Irbil Governor Ahmed Noshna earlier said that 3 rescuers were being treated in hospital for burns and another 10 suffered breathing difficulties. The main storage tank that was impacted contained more than 5,000 tons of fuel, he said, putting the estimated cost of the damage caused at $8 million USD. The Irbil Civil Defense said 4 fuel trunks as well as 3 fire trucks were burned. So far, we don't know what caused it, said Noshna, adding that it could have been an electrical short circuit. Saeed noted that the facility did not meet any of the standards set by the Civil Defense Agency for safety. With Iraq experiencing scorching summers, the country has seen multiple fires in recent weeks affecting shopping centers, warehouses, and hospitals. Iraq is one of the biggest oil producers, and crude oil sales make up 90% of budget revenues, but exports from the Kurdistan region have been halted for more than a year in a dispute over legal and technical issues. Huh, I didn't know that. So I have some... This is what it looked like from a plane. That's the ongoing massive fire which has now been put out at the asphalt storage of an oil refinery in Irbil. This is a video taken from a plane. See the wing right here on the right side, and he zooms in. I do have better video though. This is from a user our account Chronophosnix. You can see like this fire was really raging. Make sure I like it. Yeah, this is insane. Where a dozen firefighters hurt. Now, when you see something like this, you have to know just how much carbon dioxide, how much methane, how much bad stuff it's putting in the air. It's not just that it's a fire, that it's an oil refinery fire, and it's causing an unprecedented amount of carbon to be introduced into our annual carbon budget. You see things like this, you model climate change into being from vehicles, from airplanes, from transportation mostly. But then you have so many of these oil storage refineries, when they catch on fire and burn like this, they're burning tons and tons and thousands of tons of fuel or oil. This is extremely detrimental to what we're trying to do here. We're trying to bring down the carbon from the atmosphere. There's no such thing as carbon capturing. You're carbon capturing things on the ground. What we've been doing wrong, I'll tell you the one thing that we've been doing wrong is using trawling nets, giant trawling nets, for only one reason only, is that it kicks up all the carbon dioxide that took 100 years to get down from the surface of the ocean down to the bottom of the ocean. You kick it up, and after 9 to 10 years, that comes up and gets all up in the atmosphere. And by then, it's too late. The greenhouse gas is already there. So we're seeing failures from even from years ago. After it's kicked up and all the particles float up, come up, they're just taken right out of the water and go right into the atmosphere. And we're starting to see this trend of trawling boost the carbon budget by millions. Because, you know, people trawl for all sorts of different reasons, but there's never a reason why it should be done. Capturing like tons of animals at one go, that's done for. We're starting to see that fishing seasons and crabbing seasons are being canceled for a second year in a row due to exacerbating climate change. The waters in the oceans are heating up, and that's causing a lot of animals to flee towards the poles, as we mentioned in a previous article that we read. But it's, I mean, what is going to be the crack that we step on that turns out to be this cavern that we fall into just so much trouble? It's not going to fix itself. It's not getting any better. In fact, it's getting worse, and it's not going away, and it will not go away just because you don't believe in climate change, just because you don't accept that the science is real. You don't accept anything. But people that say that, you know, they're not going to be able to come back like, oh yeah, well, climate change this. They're going to be, well, this politician said this. Who cares about politicians right now? If they're not putting a fire under each other's foot, see, like, okay, we need to get this done now. We're on a ticking clock. And when you have events like this that happen, it's less than 5 years that we have left on the carbon budget in the atmosphere. Our breathing bubble that we're in on the planet has a ticking clock. We can't live anywhere else. You can't live underground so deep that it's going to make a difference. You can't live on an island because they're all going to be gone because sea level rise is happening. Because as the water warms, it expands. And whenever you have thousands of tons of fuel burnt in just one sitting like this is very detrimental to the environment, the atmosphere, and for people's health around this area. It doesn't go away. And just because you can't outright see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Especially high up in the atmosphere where it's causing greenhouse gases are causing more heat than usual. We're having already, like, most of the country nearing over 90 degrees by next week. It's going to be a huge heat increase, and we're going to see a huge amount of air conditioner units that are going to be turned on. It's going to be insane. But most air conditioner units, if it's 110 degrees outside, like, it's going to be very difficult for normal air conditioners that you stick out the window to be able to cool your house, because the cycling of that hot air isn't going to do any good. This is still a pretty wild visual. This massive fire that's happened in Irbil, Iraq. Alright. I thank you for joining me on this stream. If you haven't already, please like the stream, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out immensely and keeps me motivated in doing videos like this. Especially, it's kind of the silent killer, because, like, how many times have you seen, no offense to Ukraine, but how many times have you seen Ukraine hit a Russian storage tank of fuel or oil? Because it's to reduce their capital, it's to reduce what they have available, their surplus of fuel and oil. But how much of that goes into the atmosphere and burns for days at a time? It's terrifying that you'll have, like, oh, okay, well, this week we had 5,000 car equivalent carbon wiped off the planet. But then you have something like this. This happens. There's no way to quantify this. 5,000 tons of fuel in this thing burning. Did it all burn up? Did it all ignite and combust? There's no way of knowing. But what we do know is that the speed at which it's introduced into the atmosphere, into the air, into the environment is rapid. So any kind of disaster that could happen as a result of this is going to happen in a very short amount of time. So you can see a hotter day, hotter days, more heat on days that were normally not so hot. But this is what we're tiptoeing into. We're tiptoeing into a world where, oh my God, you get like that feeling like, is that a fire? That's going to increase the carbon budget of this year by this amount, and then we're not going to be able to make this product anymore. When are we going to get to that point? To the point that nobody can make anything anymore because manufacturing is an ugly word, because it's adding to climate change. People want to keep talking about worthless jobs. Like, being able to afford food, I don't think is worthless. But some people think that because somebody has to drive 20 to 30 minutes, they're destroying the environment. And no, that's not the case. If a modern car, or with one reasonably within the last few years, they have better gas mileage. Mine has great gas mileage. And I don't see a change, like electric vehicles. I still don't see them catching on, because I see like the entire time it was pinned together with AI, and people are largely sick of AI and don't believe in the hype from the Cybertruck. Sorry, I digress quite a bit. And what we were talking about is this refinery that burned last night for 12 hours, 15 hours or so, and the environmental impacts the carbon dioxide would have by entering into the atmosphere at such a rapid rate, in a rapid amount. Not just a fire that we have to look at. We have to look at other aspects of the fire. What's it burning? What's it putting in the atmosphere? Is it metals? It's like we can see the percentage of aluminum that's in our atmosphere present. Particulates from burning spacecraft and probes that go into the atmosphere and burn up. Also, a lot of weapons and bombs. They also use metals that would wind up in the atmosphere. It's all related because nothing's a closed system. What happens over in one country, that air can wind up in another country. Whenever that railroad was blown up in Ohio last year, that southern, I don't remember the name, sorry. That a lot of that chemical wound up falling into Pennsylvania, into people there. So it's not just the immediate areas where the explosion happened, or the train cars, but it's where all that smoke went up in the air and came back down as a column elsewhere. These are things that we're not thinking of yet as a common idea. Like, okay, now where is this going to fall? It's hard enough trying to have people accept that acid rain is real, sorry. Because all it is, just the pH value of the liquid that's falling, the fluid that's falling, is much lower than it normally would be, and it causes an acidic effect. Acidification in the oceans as well is a big problem. We're seeing pH values largely change all over Alaska rivers, with metals and other minerals adding into the waters from all of the permafrost thawing. It's all connected because polar north and the polar south are heating up at, I think it was like 10 times the speed as the rest of the world. So we probably expect a lot to happen in Antarctica in the next few months, especially as this heat spins out, and it's going to cause a litany of problems. You can have glacier melting, ice melting, no fast ice anymore. You don't have penguins and other animals that live on this fast ice to be able to raise their families. Then you have a 90% chick failure mortality rate. None of them survive. 100% failure. How many years would it take to see an extinction event for these animals? We're not ones to wanting to doomsay and doom scroll, but we're looking at everything that we've said in the past so far here. We like to keep all that in our mind because it is all connected, and a huge smoke cloud that goes into the atmosphere of carbon dioxide causes a lot of poison, has to come down at some point and poison somewhere. So this doesn't just end after the fire's out, unfortunately. Sorry to hear that, John Jones. Customization, live chat replay. Okay. I had to make sure live chat replay was turned on for this stream because I just started noticing that I didn't have that checked whenever I created a stream. So when people would be chatting in the chat box, I wouldn't see it in the replays. And that was like, what? So now that I know that, now that I know that, I'll just leave it on. I'll just make sure it's always checked. All right. Well, if you haven't already, please like the stream, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out immensely and keeps me motivated to doing stories like this related to climate change and just the absolute destruction they could be having on the rest of the planet. Especially a fire like this that occurs that lasts for many, many hours, 15 hours. And it takes so much manpower, hundreds of people to be able to manage this fire, and people are still hurt. Over a dozen firefighters hurt in the process for breathing and burns. I thank you for joining me again. I believe I will call this stream here, as I don't want to look for other footage because it might be licensed. And the footage that I found is one that I know that I could show, but it's a massive fire that happened here. They don't know how it happened. That could be climate change. The ambient temperature around the area is just escalating to the point that it has an explosion. Now here's some of the more footage. Possibly an early shot here. Those fuel tanks, those cylinders. A lot of carbon being put in the air. Massive. Very explosive. Fuel is very powerful. Hell of a fire. Alright, I think that's all that I have for today for this. Pretty significant fire. Colossal fire, yes indeed. Violent fire. Oil refinery. Very, very, very impressive looking fire. Alright, that's all I have for now. I thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Please take care.